Ladies and gentlemen, GRC Summit 2023 is about to start.
In a world of shifting tides, organizations face a choice: adapt or fade away. The clock is ticking on our sustainable promises, our cherished dream, a vision of an untamed potential. Yet, some stories remain untold. For some, it's a formality, a compulsion, a checkbox filled, a routine charade. But what of the future? We lose sight of what's truly in our aim. A future of sustainability, where dreams can dream. Will we embrace it with genuine care, or let it slip away, leaving us unaware? Just like a dream afraid of waking, that never takes the chance. So again, we are faced with the question: what kind of future will you truly pursue? Will you be the one to participate in shaping a future that's wide awake?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to GRC Summit 2023. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera to all of us. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Greetings from the GRC Summit 2023, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. I am Bintang Syahya, feel so honored to be your master of ceremony of today. And once again, let's give big round of applause for all of today, ladies and gentlemen. In this very special event, because the help of technology, today's seminar is a hybrid event. So we would like to say hello to the online participants that already joined us in the online Zoom. Please everyone give a warm wave to the camera. Bye-bye, hello. Please say hello to our online participants. Give warm high wave, yes, good. More higher wave, so everybody in the online can see. Thank you so much. Hope the online participants can enjoy with all of us here from afar. And ladies and gentlemen, this remarkable event can be attributed to the collaborative effort of GRC Association Indonesia, Association of Indonesian Governance Professional, Indonesia Risk Management Professional Association, or IRMAPA, and Institute of Compliance Professional Indonesia, or ICOPI, Indonesia Professional in Audit and Control Association, or IPACA. And also, not forgetting the support we got from the CRMS Indonesia, LSP MKS, LSP GRK, Enterprise Risk Management Academy, Way Academy, and Top Business. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like also to say thank you. Like to acknowledge the key organization which took a significant part of this event, because without their support, this event would not be possible. So we would like to thank you to PT Tugu Reasuransi Indonesia. Also thank you to PT Asuransi Allianz Indonesia, PT Hutama Karya Persero. Thank you to Pengembangan Akuntansi dan Keuangan PPA dan K. And thank you to PT Afris Assurance. Thank you for PT Jakarta Industrial Estate Pulau Gadung, PT Pertalife Insurance, BPJS Ketenaga Kerjaan, PT Great Eastern Life Indonesia, PT Prudential Life Assurance Indonesia, and thank you to PT Telkom Indonesia Persero Tbk, PT PNM Permodalan Nasional Madani, PT Zurich Asuransi Indonesia Tbk. Also thank you to Kementerian Agraria dan Tata Ruang Badan Pertanahan Nasional. And last but not least, thank you to Perum Jasa Tirta II. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially open this event, please allow us to welcome Dr. Antonius Alijoyo as the chairperson of the steering committee to give an opening speech. To Dr. Antonius Alijoyo, the time is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. There is nothing that I can say except that really my great appreciation to all the audience who actually allocate and willing to come and participate in this event, which is very important because I witnessed myself that when we start this kind of activity, we just start a very small, a very low enthusiasm. But now today, governance, risk management and compliance are rising along with also the challenges and the uncertainty that are coming ahead of all of us. So then, thank you and appreciate to the all audience. I cannot actually mention one by one, but allow me special thanks to Ibu Sophie Watimena, Michael and everyone, as the speaker and all the participants. Give a big applause to them. Yeah. Now, allow me just to draw one particular attention. What are we going actually the outcome of this event? Yeah. Yesterday, we actually got a kind of delivery from our friends, Michael, who take us through about what is the resilient and agile. Yeah. So, in the perspective of the future of the organization. And then secondly, we are talking about the missing link of the integrated GRC, i.e. the strategy and the process. We talk, we spend almost around 6 hours altogether, and today we are going to share more on how are we going to deal with the practical challenges in implementing of GRC. Yeah. So then it will be a kind of dynamic and interactive discussion, yeah, and hopefully with the professional MC today, yeah, you are going to enjoy. Hey, MC. I'm just saying hello to you, okay.
Hello, sir.
Okay, hello, ladies. Yeah, and we do hope that please use this event as effective as possible. Bring up the questions, bring up the comments, or bring up your observations, sharing with all the other audience, because learning together is basically the best methods in everywhere. Second, use as well our breakout time, yeah, in order to exchange information, exchange sharing, practical and everything, because that we keep learning, we keep aligning, we keep practicing, and we keep improving. So then, without any further ado, I give it back to the MC so that we can start the event officially. Thank you so much. Let's begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Antonius Alijoyo, for the heartwarming opening speech. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lifetime Achievement and Seminar session of the GRC Summit 2023. Today, it is a great pleasure that we introduce our distinguished host for this session, Mr. Suryo Rimba Suroto, who will guide us through the lifetime achievement keynote speech in the place of Mrs. Sofia Watimena, Chairman of the Audit Board and member of the Board Commissioner Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. After graduating from reputable institutions, Mr. Surjo Rimba holds a strong educational foundation. And currently, Mr. Suroto serves as the director at PT Jakarta Osis Energy, leveraging his extensive knowledge and skills to drive the company's growth and success. Additionally, he is a certified practitioner, ERMA Singapore, trainer, and assessor BNSP Indonesia in risk management ISO 31000. Mr. Suyorima Suroto has been entrusted by various reputable institutions to facilitate training solutions, serve as a speaker and moderator for seminars and webinars, and deliver insightful guest lectures at university. Mr. Suyorima Suroto comes to us with a lot of knowledge and expertise in the field. And we are honored to have him as our host today. Let us begin this session. Please join us in giving him a warm welcome, Mr. Suyorima Suroto. Yes, please, Mr.
Good morning, all respectful GRC participants here in Royal Ambarukmo Hotel and everyone attending online. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Let me introduce myself. My name is Surjo Rimba Suroto and I will be your host for this session. There is an important reminder that in this first session today, there will be no question and answer session. I would also like to introduce you our respectful speaker in this first session of today, Mrs. Sofia Watimena. Mrs. Sofia Watimena, after graduating from reputable institutions, Mrs. Sofia Isabella Watimena earned her bachelor degree in accounting from University of Gadjah Mada before continuing her degree at Leiden University, Netherlands, and Kuene Logistics University, Germany, to obtain a Master of Business Administration. Building upon her knowledge, she pursued advanced studies at Kuene Logistics University, earning a Master's of Business Administration with a specialization in logistics, materials, and supply chain from 2015 to 2017. She also completed a Master of Business Administration at Leiden University from 2001 to 2002, further augmenting her qualifications. In addition, she has been qualified as Chartered Accountant, which is acknowledged by Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia. At this time, she is a member of the Board of Commissioners at the Financial Services Authority, or OJK. Sofia began her career as an external auditor at Ernst & Young, and she served as Senior Manager of EY Transaction Advisory Services. Likewise, she was appointed as Internal Audit Manager at PT Semen Cibinong Tbk. During her career, she served as the head of the Finance Resource Management Unit, UNDP. Afterward, Sofia was trusted as the Vice President of Advisory and Investment at PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance, one of the subsidiaries of PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure and many multilateral institutions. Sofia once joined PT Pelabuhan Indonesia Investama as Director of Operation and Finance. She then pursued a career at PT Indonesia Asahan Aluminium Persero as Executive Director of Finance for 1 year. Then, From April to October 2021, she served as the managing director. Sophia once joined the PT Pelabuhan Indonesia II as Director of Finance and Operation at PT Pelabuhan Indonesia Investama and Director of Finance and Human Resource at PT Indonesia Kendaraan Terminal Tbk. She further pursued her career at PT Indonesia Asan Aluminium as Executive Director of Finance, and thereafter she was trusted as the Managing Director. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite our speaker today to the stage, Mrs. Sophia Watimena. Please give her applause.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Dr. Antonius Alijoyo, Mr. Michael Rasmussen, Bapak Suryo Rimba Suroto, and all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my thank you to the organizer who invited me to this very special occasion, the GRC Summit. The topic being discussed in this conference is very relevant in the constant evolving situation currently. The need for GRC strategies in the face of a dynamic, interconnected risk and regulatory landscape. The role of GRC becomes paramount in maintaining ethical, resilient, and responsible operations, understanding risk, and being adaptive to regulation. Our world is a complex tapestry where various threads of risk and regulations intertwine. Economic, environmental, technological, and social factors are no longer isolated. They are connected in ways that shape the course of industries, governments, and societies. We see the financial crisis in 2008 highlighted how risk in the housing market had ripple effects that cross borders, causing a global economic downturn. Today, we also face challenges with no geographical boundaries, such as climate change, cybersecurity, and also geopolitics problems that lead to food and energy crisis in all over the world. These challenges further emphasizing the interconnected nature of our risk and regulatory landscape. Anticipating risk can trigger regulatory changes, while regulatory changes itself may also raise additional risks if the companies are not sufficiently agile. In this dynamic environment, traditional risk management approach falls short. Business and governments must embrace a holistic perspective, considering the interplay between risk factors. For example, a supply chain disruption can cascade into reputational damage and financial losses. Risk management is not only about preventing failure, but also facilitating success and creating value. Effective risk management requires constant monitoring, scenario planning, and stakeholder collaboration. The ability to identify emerging risks and respond swiftly can determine an organization's resilience. So what is the role of technology? Technology, particularly the digital revolution, has accelerated the pace at which risks and regulations evolve. As we adopt new technologies, we gain remarkable opportunities, but also we will face new vulnerabilities. Recently, we have been stormed by artificial intelligence technologies that change how we do things. Adam and Eve, for example, to AI capable of creating something apart from humans, and generative AI like ChatGPT that being shockwaves worldwide. We see that Dataiku and Databricks has released AI Today survey to 400 senior AI professionals in large companies with more than $3 billion annual revenue around the world. And the result shows that 64% respondents are likely to use generative AI or large language model, LLM technology, in their business. While 45% of respondents said they are already using or experimenting generative AI. In addition, global spending on software, hardware, and services for AI-centric systems is expected to reach about $150 billion in 2023 and surpass $300 billion in 2026. The financial services sector has been a leading sector and is projected to be the front runner in terms of AI adoption. Based on forecasts from the International Data Corporation, banking and retail will deliver the largest AI investments in 2023 with about 13% and 12% of market shares respectively. But then digital disruption also correlated with cyber attacks, data breaches, and data privacy concerns. The IIA, Institute of Internal Auditors, predicts the cost of cybercrime in 2023 to exceed $8 trillion, is a significant amount. These issues highlight the need for adopted regulatory frameworks to keep up with the rapidly changing digital landscape. Striking the right balance between innovation and protection is very, very, very crucial to navigating this interconnected terrain. Now we talk about the essence of GRC. Governance, risk, and compliance encompass a triad of principles that must work in harmony to ensure an organization's sustainability. Governance sets the tone at the top, defining an organization's values, ethical standards, and strategic direction. Risk management identifies, assess, and mitigate risks that could disrupt operation or tarnish reputation, while compliance ensures adherence to laws, regulations, and industry standards, safeguarding the organization's legal and ethical integrity. Organizations must embrace change, viewing it not as a threat, but as an opportunity to adapt, to innovate, and to lead. Regulatory compliance should be seen not as a burden, but as a means to build trust and sustain long-term success. A disruption in one area can create cascading effects, exposing vulnerabilities across the organization. So holistic risk assessments that consider internal and external factors are very crucial, as are adaptable compliance frameworks that can respond to evolving mandates. In this age of rapid change, static GRC approaches are obviously inadequate. With the assistance of technology, GRC can be a value driver and an active participant at every line of defense. Therefore, organizations need to embrace technology that leads to cognitive GRC. Adopting technology, which is often a source of both innovation and risk, can be a powerful tool in the GRC landscape. Advanced data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning can help us to recognize the interconnectedness of risk and regulatory landscape, predict future events, see trends and patterns we miss, and suggest action. These tools enable organizations to monitor real-time data, detect anomalies, and identify potential threats, enhancing their ability to make informed decisions and take proactive measures. So cognitive GRC is the next level of agile GRC, which uses sophisticated technology to deliver greater efficiency, effectiveness, resilience, and agility in GRC. Now, how we build the culture of GRC. GRC is not just a set of processes. It is a culture that must be embedded throughout an organization. Leadership commitment to GRC principles sets the tone for the employees to embrace ethical behavior, manage risk responsibly, and stay compliant. Regular training, awareness program foster a GRC mindset, empowering individuals to contribute to the organization's resilience. Interconnected risk and regulatory landscape also demand collaboration among internal departments, industry peers, and also with regulatory bodies. Communication channels should be established to share insights, best practices, and emerging threats. Collaborative efforts can lead to formulating industry-wide standards and practices that raise the bar for GRC excellence. To promote a GRC culture in the Indonesian financial sector, services sector, we adopt 3 lines model as a best practice to be implemented in the financial services sector. The first line is the financial services industry itself, like banking, insurance, and so on. The second line is supporting professions such as public accountant, actuaries, notaries, lawyer, and so on. And the third line is the financial services regulator, in this case is FSA or OJK. Each line must implement GRC thoroughly, so financial services sector can have a sound ecosystem and protect the public or investors' interests. Now we talk about the OJK GRC initiatives. To foster resilience in the financial service sector, OJK has committed to improve GRC implementation internally and externally by considering interconnected risks in the financial service sector. Internally, firstly, OJK has implemented the combined assurance method in the framework of 3 lines model. in which we optimize the tools to assure GRC implementation in all lines of defense. In this case, the first line in OGK internally, the first line is the supervisor, and then the second line is the risk management function and the supporting function, like the legal, the finance, and so on. And the third line is in OGK itself is the audit internal function. So we conduct integrated assurance in all lines using risk as the navigator. As a result, the implementation of GRC could be monitored and evaluated continuously and effectively. Secondly, OGK encourages equal maturity levels in all sectors under its supervision by standardizing internal quality assurance and quality control in the banking, capital market, and non-bank financial institution sectors. Furthermore, the Board of Commissioners also oversees internal audit results to ensure findings and immediate action are correctly taken. This initiative aligns with the proposed IPPF evolution, which states that one of the board duties is to oversee the performance of the Chief Audit Executive and the internal audit function, including external quality assessments. Externally, OGK encourages the strengthening of integrity in the financial services sector by promoting the implementation of an anti-bribery management system. By May this year, about 61 financial services institutions have implemented anti-bribery management system. And then OJK also has released OJK regulation or POJK, Peraturan OJK, about governance or tata kelola and risk management for the banking sector, for the capital market, and also for non-bank financial institution sectors. We also released POJK application, applied POJK for risk management in the use of information technology for commercial banks and also non-bank financial institutions. So by releasing this POJK, we're trying to adapt with the current situation, with current challenges, collaborated with the industry, how we manage the risk. By releasing those POJK, then we also require a supervisory action. So once non-compliance to regulation is identified, OJK assess the severity and nature of the valuation, and then we can do the supervisory action, whether it is sanctions or fines or warnings. But if it is severity enough, and then we can measure also and consider the suspension of license, removal of key personnel, or even revocation of the license. So it is quite strict. Not only regulation, OJK also anticipate emerging risks and events by issuing a necessary policy. For example, in recent years, we issued relaxation policy to respond to COVID-19 and also to peer-to-peer industry moratorium due to widespread problems in society. Next in line, we are in the process of strengthening OJK green taxonomy and electric vehicle technology policy as a support to respond climate change issues. In addition to that, we are currently know there is a Undang-Undang P2SK, or the Law on Development and Strengthening of Financial Sector Reform, which is law number 4, year 2023. As a response to Undang-Undang P2SK and global regulations, OJK needs to publish new or amend existing regulations. Among others are the financial conglomerate and integrated supervision. So Undang-Undang P2SK has addressed this issue and has added responsibility to OJK in terms of integrated regulation and supervision of the financial holding company, or PIKK, in financial sector, and conducting assessment on the systemic impact of financial conglomerates. The second one is about financial technology supervision. The regulation should consider the trade-off between innovation and security to make sure information security concept of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of public and personal data is being protected. The third one is about carbon trading supervision. The framework should be able to force fair and integrated reporting in the first line and credible supporting professions, particularly to protect investors from greenwashing agenda. And the fourth is about crypto asset supervision. Supervision must consider IT risks like security, scalability, disaster recovery failure, IT operation, and integration risks. Also data management and governance, and non-IT risks like legal, regulatory risks, anti-money laundering, liquidity, fraud. So we cover all of the risks as much as possible. So ladies and gentlemen, to summarize, as we stand at the crossroads of an interconnected risk and regulatory landscape, we must acknowledge our world's complexity and role in shaping it. We can successfully navigate these uncharted waters through a holistic understanding of risk, a commitment to adaptable regulations, and a willingness to embrace change. GRC emerged as the compass that guides organizations toward ethical conduct, risk resilience, and regulatory compliance. By embracing GRC as a strategic imperative, organizations can thrive in an era where the only constant is change. Let us seize the opportunities arising from our interconnectedness with collaboration, innovation, and commitment to a future where GRC is the foundation of a responsible and sustainable global business environment for generations to come. Thank you.
Another big applause, please, to Ms. Sofia Watimena. Thank you, Bu. Thank you, Ms. Sofia Watimena. Thank you, everyone. I would like to highlight the remarks from Mrs. Sofia Watimena presentation. Recent years' events from the pandemic, crisis in Ukraine, and also several others made us realize that we are more connected worldwide, more than we ever imagined. There are no geographical boundaries. In our organization context, we must consider the interplay between different risk factors. There is also a desperate need of technology involvement in GRC, including the role of artificial intelligence. It can recognize the interconnection of risk and regulations, trends and patterns, and predict future events, and provide or suggest best actions. Thank you, Mrs. Sofia Watimena, for your valuable insights. Thank you, the audience, both on-site and also online. I will end this session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mrs. Sofia Watimena, for an amazing discussion. Also, thank you for Mr. Suryo Rimba Suroto. Now we will invite Mr. Maulana to come on stage. Please, for Mrs. Sofia to remain at the stage, because we would like to invite Mr. Maulana to come on stage to give a token of appreciation for Mrs. Sofia Watimena and Mr. Suryo Rimba. please remain at the stage. Once again, thank you very much. We would like to express our highest gratitude to our Mrs. Sofia Watimena and Mr. Suryo Rimba for leading this insightful session. Hopefully this will be a beneficial for all of us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again, and Mr. Molna would like to give token of appreciation to Mr. Suryo Rimba. And now, we would like to take a picture together with Mrs. Sofia, Mr. Maulana, and Mr. Suryo Rimba. Okay, the lady in the middle. On our count, 3, 2, 1, big smile. All right. Thank you once again, Mrs. Sofia Watimena and Mr. Suryo Rimba, and also Mr. Maulana. Thank you for leading the insightful session, and you may take a seat, please. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather with both reverence and admiration to honor an individual whose dedication and contributions to the field of governance, risk management, and compliance, or GRC, in Indonesia have left an indelible mark. The GRC Association takes immense pride in recognizing the outstanding achievements of practitioners who have devoted their lives to the scientific development and practice of GRC. To lead the session, please convey to Dr. Antonius Alijoyo as a member of judges in determining the awardee of the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yes, sir. Please come to the stage.
Thank you, MC. Actually, I don't prepare any script. So, actually, this initiative to recognize the achievement of GRC practitioner is driven by the need to make it more recognition on how GRC actually being in a live practiced by all the seniors in Indonesia. That's basically. Second, then, the way we do is, basically we ask then all the professional association that related to the GRC, from the governance, from the risk management, the compliance, the audit, and so on, etc., to give their nominee. So basically this is really association driven. And then we have a kind of panel that I cannot mention one by one, but consists of the previous awards, not winner, award receiver. And then we use some criteria on how actually the GRC practiced in their almost lifetime. And then we would like to see the consistency, discipline, leadership, and how actually they also influence the others to believe that the GRC is actually the way of life. Not just actually a kind of something at the surface, but really something that is in the DNA. So then it is, we actually now already the fourth or the fifth year of the award, and then we, this year we have already nomination, and I would say that this time we are going to carry out such a recognition process. But again, I just want to highlight, this is something not really just for fun, but really something, recognitions coming from really we appreciate. We call it the pioneer, the hero of the GRC practitioner. And hopefully we all can learn from the way they do, from the way they inspire the others, and take a part of it. Thank you so much. So then, let's the award ceremony start, yeah, and I leave it back to the management. Thank you. So, we give applause to all the nominees today. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Bapak, Ibu yang saya hormati, saya mewakili Bursa Efek Indonesia mengucapkan selamat atas penganugerahan GRC Lifetime Achievement Award kepada Bapak Ito Warsito sebagai ahli governansi, manajemen risiko, dan kepatuhan pasar modal. Saya mengenal Pak Ito jauh sebelum beliau menjadi Direktur Utama Bursa Efek Indonesia, karena beliau merupakan atasan saya ketika bertugas di Dana Reksa Sekuritas. Beliau merupakan sosok akuntan dan ekonom yang andal di pasar modal Indonesia. Sewaktu beliau menjabat sebagai Direktur Utama Bursa Efek Indonesia periode tahun 2009 sampai dengan 2015, terdapat banyak inisiatif penegakan governance, risk and compliance yang diterapkan di BI dan menjadi legasi yang terus dijalankan sampai sekarang. Di antaranya adalah penerbitan piagam BOC, BOD, dan piagam organ pendukung perusahaan, seperti Satuan Pemeriksa Internal, Sekretaris Perusahaan, dan Manajemen Risiko, untuk memastikan bahwa GRC di dalam perusahaan benar-benar dijalankan. Selain itu, di bawah kepemimpinan beliau, BI juga melakukan peningkatan versi manajemen mutu dari ISO 9001-2000 menjadi ISO 9001-2008, serta memperluas cakupannya dari hanya beberapa fungsi menjadi seluruh fungsi yang ada di BI. Pada tahun 2012, BI juga menerima sertifikat ISO 27001-2005 atau Sistem Manajemen Keamanan Informasi atau SMKI, yang dimulai dari fungsi pengawasan transaksi dan diperluas di tahun-tahun berikutnya. Pada tahun tersebut, BI menjadi bursa efek pertama di Asia Tenggara yang memiliki sertifikasi tersebut. Untuk menjaga tingkat kepercayaan kepada stakeholders, Pak Ito juga mengarahkan agar BI sebagai fasilitator perdagangan efek yang didukung oleh teknologi informasi dapat menerapkan tata kelola TI berdasarkan framework COBIT 4.1. Hal ini menunjukkan bahwa proses-proses teknologi informasi di BI telah dilakukan dengan baik sesuai dengan standar COB-IT. Semua inisiatif bawah kepemimpinan beliau menunjukkan komitmen agar BI selalu meningkatkan tata kelola perusahaan dalam pengelolaan ketersediaan, integritas, dan kerahasiaan informasi, serta seluruh kegiatan operasional bursa lainnya. Setelah 2 periode kepemimpinan di Bursa Efek Indonesia, Pak Ito tetap aktif dalam mendukung transformasi GRC di Indonesia, khususnya di industri pasar modal. Di antaranya, beliau pernah menjadi anggota Dewan Audit Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, anggota Dewan Pengurus Nasional Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia, serta menjadi komisaris di beberapa perusahaan. Sosoknya yang tegas dan berintegritas, serta pengalaman beliau yang luas selama puluhan tahun berkecimpung di bidang keuangan, menjadikan beliau sebagai panutan bagi kita semua. Dan saya merasa beruntung pernah mengenal dan bekerja dekat dengan beliau. Di dunia pasar modal, rasa sangat kehilangan atas kepergian beliau. Namun, sumbangsi beliau terhadap perkembangan pasar modal Indonesia dan GRC di Indonesia akan selalu dikenang. Apresiasi kami bagi Asosiasi GRC Indonesia yang telah menganugerahkan GRC Lifetime Achievement Award kepada Bapak Ito Warsito yang kami kasihi dan banggakan. Semoga apa yang beliau tinggalkan dan telah diupayakan dapat terus terjaga dan ditingkatkan sehingga mendorong kemajuan pasar modal Indonesia. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is with great respect and a deep sense of gratitude that we announce great respect and deep sense of gratitude that we announce the recipient of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award in the GRC field. Unfortunately, the awardee, Mr. Ito Warsito, is no longer with us. However, his legacy is always there, and his impact continues to shape the GRC landscape in our country. Allow us a brief moment to contemplate the enduring legacy of Mr. Ito Warsito, a legacy that underscores the lasting significance of GRC practices within our society. His contributions have established a benchmark for all of us to aim for, and it is incumbent upon us to uphold the mantle of excellence that he initiated. We would like to invite Mr. Waluyo to give this award. Come to the stage, sir. Unfortunately, the family of Mr. Ito Warsito cannot join us in this session because his family is still in the USA. So as representative, we invite Mr. Victor as General Secretary of GRC Association to receive this award on behalf of Mr. Ito family. To Mr. Waluyo, kindly give the award to representative of Mr. Ito family, to Mr. Victor. Let's give big round of applause. And let's take picture together. Thank you once again for Mr. Waluyo and Mr. Victor. You may please have a seat first at the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will look to appreciation speech from daughter of Mr. Ito. Here we go.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Prita Saraswati Warsito. I am the daughter of the late Mr. Warsito. On behalf of my father and our family, I would like to thank the GRC Association for the Lifetime Achievement Award granted to him for his work. It is a joy and an honor to know that his achievements are still being recognized even after his death. My father was someone I and many others in his family admired and respected. He was the pride and hope of his humble family. The expectations may have weighed heavily on his shoulders, but he persevered and made his mark in the greater society. Whether it be my immediate family or my extended paternal family, we all feel his loss dearly. While I was growing up, he could not spend much time with his children, but neither I nor my brother resented his absence. We've always understood that he was a professional who took his work seriously. Over the years, we watched as he steadily rose to greater and greater heights. And even if we did not quite understand what his work entailed, we understood that he was becoming someone bigger than just our father. If I were to list two words that I remember associating with him most, it would be integrity and resourcefulness. He was someone who made remarkable achievements, but held fast to his values and did not stray to become someone I could not recognize. He believed in the providence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knew that his hard work would be rewarded in time. I, as well as the rest of our family, sincerely hope that my late father's contributions to the world of finance will be his sadaqah jariyah and benefit him in the afterlife. Once more, I would like to say thank you to GRC for your recognition and appreciation towards my late father's work. We, as his family, are grateful to all of you for this honor. Thank you for remembering and celebrating my late father and his work. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Please give big round of applause to our first award, Mr. Ito Warsito. Ladies and gentlemen, but that's not the all. We also wish to acknowledge and celebrate the significant contributions of another distinguished practitioner in the GRC field. And this is the second person who has received the Lifetime Achievement.
Saya Pandu Praja, mantan pimpinan KPK periode 2012-2015. Saya diminta memberikan testimoni mengenai Khairi Riana sebagai yang akan memperoleh Life of Achievement GRC. Saya mengenal Khairi Riana jauh ketika beliau menjabat sebagai pimpinan KPK, mewakili kalangan industri. Sebagai pimpinan awal-awal ketika KPK berdiri, beliau berhasil meletakkan dasar-dasar pencegahan korupsi yang sangat dibutuhkan bagi penegak hukum. Yang KPK di dalam mensosialisasikan di kalangan industri dan segala turunannya. Latar belakang beliau sebagai mantan Dirut Timah menunjukkan bahwa memang beliau mempunyai kompetensi yang lebih dari cukup untuk bisa memahami bagaimana pandangan industri terhadap korupsi itu sendiri. Karenanya maka hal tersebut kemudian pasti akan memperoleh resistensi dan rasanya akan lebih mendapat resistensi apabila disampaikan oleh orang-orang yang tidak punya background dan pengetahuan mengenai industri. Untuk itulah maka beliau hadir dan saya melihat peran tersebut sampai ketika saya menjabat di periode ketiga masih tetap relevan. Bahkan saya merasakan ketika kemudian saya menjabat, peranan beliau di dalam meletakkan konsep-konsep dengan korupsi masih tetap terasa. Biasanya kalau industri itu identik dengan kajian-kajian akademis untuk bisa memahami mengenai konsep pencegahan korupsi, dan beliau berhasil membuat kami di KPK ketika itu harus bisa memahami apa yang sudah dilakukan oleh beliau sebagai pendahulu kami, dan sehingga buat kami memudahkan ketika berhubungan dengan industri. Bahkan kemudian setelah lepas dari KPK, saya menggantikan beliau sebagai komisaris di MRT. Lagi-lagi saya merasakan peranan beliau sebagai mantan komisaris MRT, mantan pimpinan KPK. Jadi saya kok ditakdirkan mengikuti jejak-jejak beliau di KPK maupun di MRT, maupun ketika sama-sama sebagai juri di Governor Award. Jadi tepat sekali beliau menjadi atau memperoleh award ini karena banyak sekali dirasakan manfaat sampai sekarang dari konsep-konsep beliau dalam pencegahan korupsi. Bahkan saya kemudian mendengar beliau sampai sekarang masih tetap terus eksis di kalangan industri. Itu menunjukkan bahwa komitmen beliau dan konsep-konsep beliau masih tetap relevan sampai saat ini. Bahkan ketika GRC sekarang mulai berkembang, masih nampak benang merahnya dari peranan beliau ketika menjabat maupun setelah menjabat dalam konteks pencegahan korupsi, di mana korupsi adalah dalam konteks GRC tentu saja sesuatu yang harus bisa dicegah resiko terjadinya korupsi. Untuk itulah maka saya berpikir beliau relevan untuk menjadikan tokoh di dalam award ini. Demikian. Terima kasih.
Mr. Eri has over the years played a pivotal role in advancing GRC practices in Indonesia, and his dedication has not gone unnoticed. Now we would like to invite Mrs. Sofia Watimena, Chairman of the Audit Board and member of the Board Commissioner Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, to give this award. Today, we are so delighted to have Mr. Eri himself present with us to accept the Lifetime Achievement Award for his exceptional contributions to the field of GRC. So, we invite to the stage our beloved Mr. Eri. To Mrs. Sofia Watimena, kindly give the award for our beloved Mr. Eri. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give big round of applause for the second award to Mr. Eddie. And let's take a picture together. Let's take a moment to reflect on the legacy of Mr. Ito Warsito and Mr. Eri, the legacy that remind us of the enduring importance of GRC practices in our society. Their work has set a standard of all to inspire us, and it is our duty to carry forward the thoughts of excellence that they have lived. And now, please, to Mr. Eri to deliver your speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing my iPad. I just had a small discussion with Pak Nathan and Pak Asad. There are two potential risks for me. Number one is low bat, and number two, what we call as technology shock or gaptek. So to mitigate that risk, Pak Anton, I go back to that's the way how we identify risk and prepare mitigation of risk. So my daughter prepared this printout. Ibu Sofia, ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely honored to receive this GRC Lifetime Achievement and saw how overflows all this video just now. Ladies and gentlemen, the work of building clear and useful systems of governance, risk assessment, and compliance in organization continues every day in Indonesia, and will probably take many lifetimes to become a national standard for all Indonesian organizations. I consider myself to be very fortunate to be able to observe on the first-hand basis the steps that Indonesian organizations took during the post-90s financial crisis, or what we call era of reform. I was part of the cohort then that learned from each other and from the then available resources of good corporate governance material about how organizations can learn to preserve and defend themselves and their systems from corruption and abuse of power, which played significant parts in worsening the effects of the financial crisis on Indonesian society. We have made many advances in this area across many sectors of industries and also involving many diverse communities since the reform era, and perhaps much development helped the lessening the impacts of the 2008 financial crisis, at least in certain respects. That is to say, the nature of this work is one that necessarily continues to evolve. Better GRC processes will always need to be developed to catch up with risks that will also always continue to become more complex and complicated. The ever-changing nature of risks and our need to continually develop systems to be able to face them is something that is readily observable in today's increasingly globalized society that Ibu Sofia also mentioned earlier. Today we are beginning to come out again after years of isolation during COVID-19 pandemic years. It is important not to forget the colossal human cost in lives caused by underpreparedness in facing novel communicable diseases, for example. We have also seen how the war between countries have affected our geopolitical relationships with other nations. The world facing worsening effects of climate change, which may one day include serious water scarcity, for example. It would be unwise to not plan for increased global conflicts in the future. Perhaps such conflicts could even occur within established borders. Furthermore, even developments that were initially considered to be positive may carry hidden risks. During the pandemic years, we saw how the rise of cryptocurrency led to risky speculative bubbles. Ladies and gentlemen, the risks posed by the challenges I have mentioned are only the ones we have known about. The real lesson, in my humble opinion, is that we cannot always anticipate all risks. And so our decision-making process, as allowed by the GRC system we have been building, need to be as robust as possible so that they can withstand the build-up of risks and complications. Of course, this is impossible for any organization to establish alone. We need each other to keep close collaborations and to be able to act as a solid coalition whenever we are faced with the challenges that the future will bring. As our society faces more and more changes of various types, it is my belief that at their core, there are problems that need to be faced with an unchanging stance, that of combined integrity, high level of ethics, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eri, for inspiring us. Now we will have a photo moment. We would like to invite back Mr. Anton, Mrs. Sofia, Mr. Victor, and Mr. Waluyo. Also, Mr. Jeffrey Siregar, Mr. Boy Michael, and Mr. Charles R. Force to have a picture together. Once again, we would like to invite Mr. Jeffrey Siregar, Mr. Boy Michael, and Mr. Charles R. Force to have a picture with all of us, Mr. Anton, Mrs. Sofia, Mr. Victor, and Mr. Waluyo. Thank you very much. Count from me. 3, 2, 1. Big smile. Okay, once again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Eri, Mr. Anton, Mr. Sofia, Mr. Victor, and Mr. Waluyo. Thank you to Mr. Jeffrey Siregar, Mr. Boy Michael, and Mr. Charles R. Ford. Hopefully their work has set a standard for all of us to inspire, aspire, and it is our duty to carry forward the torch of excellence that they have laid. Thank you for the inspiring speech. And you may take a seat. Sir, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for the award. It's so inspiring to all of us. And now, please welcome to the seminar. I'm sorry. Please welcome to our seminar of the GRC Summit. Welcome to the first session seminar. And today, it is a great pleasure that we introduce our distinguished host for this session, Mr. Charles R. Force, who will guide us through the proceedings in place of Mr. Rasmussen. Mr. Charles R. Forst holds the position of Chairman at the Indonesia Risk Management Professional Association. His domain of expertise is good corporate governance, enterprise risk management, project risk management, and business continuity management. To Mr. Charles R. Forst, the stage is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ibu Sofia, Pak Anton, and all distinguished guests and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera to all of us. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Now I'm super excited standing here on the stage, introducing you to the next speaker of the keynote speech session with the topic, the future of the GRC, trends and key success factors. And I believe from the rundown, you already know who the speaker will be. And I'm supposed to read his CV again, which I will not, because to me, this distinguished speaker, far beyond than just words which I can read from the CV. He's actually a rock star, like a rock star legend in the GRC universe. He is a very well-known person in the GRC universe. He's very famous. Even whenever the Marvel, you know Marvel? The Avengers, Multiverse, Iron Man, decides to take the GRC universe into the movie, perhaps we will see this gentleman giving a consulting services to Tony Stark into transforming the Jarvis into a GRC application. No kidding. He's a true legend. He is the one who coined for the first time the acronym of GRC. He introduced GRC to the world, and he became the reason of the GRC the world knows today. So without further ado, please give a big round of applause to Michael Rasmussen. Okay, Michael, if it's all up to me, I will give you all day long to talk about GRC, but I need to follow the rundown, so perhaps 30 minutes for the presentation before we go to the question and answers in the remaining minutes. So please, the stage is yours.
That was a very humbling and appreciated introduction, and it is quite a privilege to be here in Indonesia to be able to present to all of you. It's quite a privilege just to even think that on a cold, snowy day in the Chicago office of Forrester Research back in February 2002, I defined and modeled what governance, risk, and compliance is, and they created the GRC acronym. And to think that I'd be standing on a stage here 22 years later, and there's a whole Indonesia GRC Association, and many of you gathered here, and there's Lifetime Achievement Awards in GRC. It's a privilege and honor to be here. If you don't mind me just taking 1 minute, I would like to mention just one other Lifetime Achievement Award. I was at Forrester Research. Many of you might know Forrester for its research and publications out there, and that's where I created the GRC space. My competitor, and to this day, was Gartner Research. That's the big research firm, Gartner. And during those days at Forrester, My analyst competitor, my nemesis, but also my friend was French Caldwell. And French Caldwell was my competitive analyst at Gartner Research. And while we sort of battled each other out there in the blog world and things, we were friends and talked every month and collaborated on GRC and the GRC space and defining and researching it. And French has had a huge impact on this space. He passed away in June as well of cancer, so just like to mention him in those as well. But the future of GRC, trends and key success factors. What is GRC? Sophia had already mentioned a little bit about that definition of GRC, but I'll get into it particularly from the OSEC definition. But first off, let's get through some ground rules here. Every organization does GRC, whether you call it GRC or something else. You may not even have a name for it. Instead of GRC, you might call it ERM, ORM, IRM. Maybe it's ABC or XYZ, but don't even have a name. But every organization here has some approach to governance, risk management, and compliance. So whether you use the acronym or not, you're doing GRC. Now, the next is referred to as GRC, again, can be referenced by a number of other acronyms. At the end of the day, GRC is about the culture, actions, and activities of the organization. It is not about technology. Technology enables governance, risk, and compliance, but I get frustrated when I get a call from a company, like a large insurance firm that said, we just bought GRC, now come and tell us how to do GRC. Well, that's sort of putting the cart before the horse. You know, what were you doing before? What did you need to change? Because you don't just purchase GRC, you do GRC. Technology enables that to make it more efficient, effective, and agile. So let's get into this. The modern organization is complex. Yesterday, I characterized it as navigating chaos. Risks are changing, and regulations are changing, and the business itself is changing. The business itself isn't just brick and mortar walls, it's the extended enterprise of third-party relationships, the vendors, suppliers, outsourcers, service providers, and more. And all this change we have to keep in sync. And today's organization too often is managing risk and compliance and governing different parts of the organization in silos. And we fail to see the interconnectedness of risk. Today's organization needs to be able to see the tree as well as the forest. That individual risk as well as the whole forest of interconnected risk. We need to get beyond just silos of like IT risk and environmental risk and health and safety risk and strategic risk and regulatory risk and be able to see the full spectrum of risk. Because when something materializes, a lot of times there's a cascading effect. And yesterday, I went through the whole example of COVID-19. What starts off with the health and safety risk has downstream risk impacts of IT security risk, privacy risk, fraud risk, bribery and corruption risk, modern slavery risk. All these things increased because of COVID-19. It is an interconnected risk environment. But too often, organizations, how they approach governance, risk, and compliance reminds me of the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California in the United States. This was a sprawling mansion that was built in the 1800s. It cost $5.5 million to build then. Now you calculate inflation, that's one extremely expensive house today. It took 38 years to build and 147 different builders, but it had no design, no blueprint, no architect. At the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. It's got doors that open to walls or doors that open to 20-foot drops, staircases that go up or down to nowhere, skylights that are in floors instead of ceilings. It had no design, no blueprint, no architect. That's how a lot of organizations have approached aspects of governance, risk, and compliance over the last several decades. Instead of, like say 38 years to build this house, we've had 38 years building risk and compliance within our business, and we've had 147 different builders doing their own thing without thinking, how should this be designed? How should it work? If we stood back and design governance, risk, and compliance, how would it work in the organization instead of all these different little silos going in different directions? So we're moving from a past to a future. A past where we had disconnected silos going in different directions, managing risk and compliance and a lot of documents, spreadsheets, and emails with a lot of overhead and redundancy and gaps, to a future of integrated GRC. that brings together a holistic strategy across different departments and functions into governance, risk, and compliance, and addresses complex challenges in our organization today like ESG and resilience. And let's talk about those in just a minute. But first, we need to understand what is the official definition of GRC. Well, I've been working with OSEG for over 20 years now as an OSEG fellow, and we've created the GRC capability model. And Carol Switzer has been out here presenting at this conference on this stage before me. And the OSEG definition of GRC is that GRC is a capability to reliably achieve objectives. That's the governance piece. Those objectives can be entity-level objectives, division, department, process, project, asset, or even relationship objectives and third-party relationships. We have objectives from high-level objectives down to very finite objectives. And that's the governance piece, is setting and guiding the organization, directing to achieve objectives. It's performance against those objectives. Then we have to address uncertainty. That's risk management. ISO 31000 states that risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Risk management needs context. And the objectives and governance provides the context that we can manage risk in the organization. And then we act with integrity. That's the compliance piece. And that's where we not only manage integrity to laws and regulations, but to the ESG commitments and statements of the organization, the policies, the controls, the values, the ethics of the organization. So GRC is a capability that enables an organization to reliably achieve objectives, address uncertainty, and act with integrity. So let's unpack this a little bit more. Governance sets the direction and strategy for the organization to reliably achieve objectives. Governance sets the context for risk management. Without context, risk management fails. Without governance, what are we assessing risk for? We need to have context, and it's those objectives that provides the context. As ISO 31000 states, risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Risk management seeks to manage and understand uncertainty by the identification, assessment, and monitoring of risk within the context to act on risk through risk acceptance, risk avoidance, risk mitigation, and risk transfer. Compliance aims to see that the organization acts with integrity in fulfilling its regulatory, contractual, and self-imposed obligations such as ESG and values. Compliance follows through on risk treatment plans to assure that risk is being managed within limits and controls through risk mitigation are in place and functioning properly. So that brings us to the trends in GRC. What am I seeing in 2023? My job is research. That's how I define my role as an analyst, is I research. I research what are the challenges companies face in the context of governance, risk, and compliance, and how do they go about solving those challenges with strategy, process, and technology. And there's 5 key trends I've identified here in 2023. It's agility, resilience, integrity, accountability, and engagement. Today's organization needs to be highly agile in risk management. We need to be able to see what's coming at the organization and be able to leap over it, go around it, leverage it to our advantage. You know, we need to be able to see what's coming at us from a risk perspective and how is that going to impact our objectives. We don't want to be an ostrich with our head in the sand. We want to be able to look forward and seeing what are the different things developing on the horizon, the geopolitical risks, the economic risks, our internal operational risks and strategic risks. How do the different scenarios play out, and what's the best path forward for the organization? The last several years with COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, and so many other factors have required that organizations be much more agile in seeing what's happening on the horizon, how is it going to play out and impact the organization, to prepare the organization and navigate with the best path forward in risk. But bad things do happen, and we might be moving down that path and we trip. Resilience is how quickly can we get up and start forward again. Resilience is the recovery from a risk event. And unfortunately, the last several years, we've had a lot of resilience needs. Again, from COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, supply chain disruptions, so many things, economic uncertainty and things. We need good recovery and resilience to recover from risk events. The third big trend is integrity. Does the organization live up to its values, its commitments, its obligations? And the core of this is ESG, environmental social governance. What the organization commits to on the environment, the social and human rights aspects and the governance of the organization is a reality in the organization. GRC is how ESG gets done in the organization. And so ESG is a huge focus right now. And to me, if you wanted to define ESG in one word, it's integrity. That what the organization commits to are its values with human rights, its values on the environment and stewardship of nature, its values on how the organization is run and governed, that it's a reality in the organization and not fiction. The fourth trend is accountability. Accountability is different from responsibility. Responsibilities are things I can give other people. I can take tasks and activities, responsibilities, and give them to you or you or you. Accountability, I cannot. I own accountability. If there's a risk issue or a compliance or control issue, I have to step up and own that. You know, we're seeing a greater focus on accountability. And some of that's coming through the accountability regimes around the world, like the United Kingdom Senior Managers Regime and Certification Regime, Ireland's SEER, the Senior Executive Accountability Regime, Hong Kong's BEAR, now FEAR, they've changed it to the Financial Executive Accountability Regime, Hong Kong's managers, that was Australia's BEAR, Hong Kong's managers in charge, Singapore's Individual Accountability and Conduct, South Africa has one now. Greater and greater accountability for risk and compliance professionals. You're seeing this in the United States where I'm from, where there's greater accountability for compliance and other executives out there for failures. Under the UK's regime, the Chief Information Officer for TSB Bank just a few months ago was fined £81,000 for a third-party resilience risk issue that CIO had to pay out of his bank account, not the bank's bank account. The bank itself was fined £40 million, but the Chief Information Officer was fined £81,000 for a third-party risk resilience issue that he personally had to pay. We're seeing a greater focus on accountability. But then that also means we need better engagement. We talk about firewalls all throughout, areas of risk like cybersecurity and things like that. Firewalls are very important. We have our physical firewalls to actually protect us from a real fire within buildings. We have our network firewalls out there that on the borders of our networks to protect us from the hackers, viruses, and worms, oh my. We have lots of firewalls for protection. But the most important firewall is the human firewall. The individuals in accounting and sales and in manufacturing or wherever it might be, they're making risk and compliance decisions every day. Day in and day out. The teller at the bank is making decisions on privacy, customer privacy, fraud, money handling, and money laundering and things. They're making decisions every day. The doctor and nurse at the hospital are making decisions on patient safety and patient privacy. Risk and compliance decisions are not being made in the back office of second and third line functions. Risk and compliance decisions are being made in the front office, the first line. And we need good GRC engagement to help and equip those frontline people on making intelligent risk and compliance and control decisions. That's engagement. So a mature GRC function allows the following 10 objectives. It's the ability to achieve business objectives. 2, ensuring risk-aware setting of objectives and strategic planning. 3, enhancing, defining, guiding, and developing the organizational culture around governance, risk, and compliance, and its counterpart, ESG. Increasing stakeholder confidence. Preparing and protecting the organization while preventing, detecting, and reducing adversity, weakness, and exposure. The ability to motivate and inspire desired conduct within individuals, the human firewall, that engagement I mentioned. Being able to stay ahead of the game, that agility in seeing what's coming at us. Improve responsiveness and efficiency, that resilience in the organization, and doing so in a way that optimizes economic return and value to the organization. So let's mature our approach to GRC. A lot of organizations, again, are down in that Winchester mystery house where we've had 147 different builders of GRC over 38 years that focus things down in that red, that risk and regulatory issue area. I need to do something for this privacy law, or this operational risk issue, or this resilience issue, or whatever it might be. And we start all of a sudden developing hundreds to thousands of documents, spreadsheets, and emails, or siloed systems that are redundant with other systems and things. Like going into COVID-19, I had one insurance company said, we've got a problem. We're moving people to a work from home environment. And this hybrid, well, it wasn't even hybrid then because it was going to COVID-19, it was lockdowns, everybody had to work from home. And we just discovered we had 28 different policy portals in the organization. And policies look on different on different portals, they have different templates. That's quite confusing. And at the same time, policies are changing. The home office expense policy, the privacy policy in the work from home environment. And we need to have one policy portal because we have all this redundancy. We need to streamline and simplify things for hybrid home office workers. So tackling things at that risk regulatory issue or department issue is the theme of the past. We're looking at more enterprise approaches to risk management, enterprise approaches to control management, enterprise approaches to third-party risk, enterprise approaches to policy management to see the big picture. Documents, spreadsheets, and emails are the inevitability of failure for governance, risk, and compliance. You do not manage risk and compliance in documents, spreadsheets, and emails. You manage documents, spreadsheets, and emails. In fact, one mid-sized bank told me that they just did an internal study of their risk, compliance, and audit resources and found out that 80% of their staff time was spent managing documents and not managing risk, compliance, and controls. Another firm was telling me that they're trying to build a report for the board of directors and all the risk events that happened in the organization over the last year. Every year they do this. Every year it took them 200 hours to build this report on all the events and incidents and cases and risk issues of the organization. 200 hours. The last year they did it that way, they found out they had risk issues that started 11 months ago and were out of control now. That's not managing risk, that's reacting to risk. Now, that same report's there at a push of a button. So we have confusing user experiences where there's too many people asking too many departments, too many different messages, and too many different times. We're assessing people to death. This week it's a internal control assessment. The week after that it's an operational resilience assessment. The week after that it's an IT security assessment. The week after that it's some compliance assessment. And half these questions in this week's assessment coming in this Word document are the same questions are being asked next week. There's coming in that spreadsheet, and the same questions are being asked in that survey tool the following week by another department. Let's work together and have a single source of truth into governance, risk, and compliance. This means organizations need a top-down strategy, a GRC management strategy that brings together different departments and functions across risk, compliance, IT security, audit, internal control, ESG, and these other functions, environmental, health and safety, and so forth, that they can work together. And we can define common GRC management processes for risk identification, assessment, treatment, policy management, third-party risk and engagement, and all these different, so we have a common process and approach to governance, risk, and compliance that's supported by an information and technology architecture. And so here's my 5-stage maturity model, which is slightly different from the one I showed yesterday on resilience, but it still follows the same 5 categories, the ad hoc to the agile. The ad hoc is the firefighting reactive mode, where we are reactive and focused on putting out individual fires of risk and compliance in scattered silos. So we're really dealing with risk and compliance and control when somebody's screaming at us at level 1. Level 2 is the fragmented, where there's GRC responsibilities that are scattered and decentralized, inconsistencies within departments. GRC activities are manual and rely on documents, spreadsheets, and emails. The difference between 1 and 2 is we're really only doing risk and compliance and somebody's screaming at us at 1. Level 2 is we're actually trying to manage risk and compliance, but it's very manual processes and takes a lot of time and effort. Level 3 is a mature department level. GRC is department specific with limited coordination between other departments and functions. But within a department, GRC activities tend to be well structured, organized, and use technology well to make GRC activities more efficient, effective, and agile at the department level. Level 4 is what I call integrated. The organization has an enterprise GRC strategy that is trying to coordinate efforts, processes, and services across departments and functions, focus on enterprise reporting and working toward a common GRC platform with centralized GRC coordination. And level 5 is the agile. GRC is integrated across the organization, which has moved to an understanding of GRC architecture that aligns and integrates information and technologies across the organization. The organization is focused on a federated GRC architecture that allows for central coordination and shared services with distributed accountability and autonomy where it makes sense. But there's a lot of roles that are involved. Governance wants to ensure that the sound governance structures are in place below the board so that the right information about the right issues is available at the right time. Risk wants to provide an integrated view of risk with strategic planning and maintain a 360-degree view of organizations' risks and effectively allocate resources to address those risks. The ethics and compliance, like the Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer, wants to establish practices and a culture to prevent misconduct, inspire desired conduct, detect problems, and improve outcomes. The Finance and Accounting Department wants to reduce costs and optimize how you allocate capital to governance, risk, and compliance processes so that GRC is better aligned to the business. The audit and assurance teams want to go beyond financial processes into operational audits and assess the design and operation of controls for governance, risk, and compliance and ethics efforts throughout the enterprise. The legal department wants to identify and establish sound practices to address your legal risks and improve your ability to detect and correct issues while improving your ability to defend the organization. Your business processes line of business wants to embed sound GRC practices in all lines of business and core processes so that business owners and operators are accountable for GRC success and our processes and services are resilient. And the IT department wants to address IT compliance and risk issues and the alignment of information technology to the GRC needs in the rest of the business. So in February 2002, gosh, 21 years ago, on a cold, snowy day in Chicago, you can see Chicago there in the snow, I defined and modeled the GRC market and acronym and used it for the first time. And since then, I've defined 6 generations of GRC software. GRC 1.0 is what I call the Sarbanes-Oxley captivity of GRC. So going back to 2002 in the United States, what else happened that year? Enron and WorldCom. And so for the first several years of GRC history, even though I had a broader vision for GRC since when I first defined it, GRC was captivated by internal controls over financial reporting and dealing with the horrible fraud that was happening in organizations in the United States like WorldCom and Enron. Then we moved to what I call GRC 2.0, and this was more of my original vision for GRC, but it was all about enabling those backline functions of audit and risk and compliance and security to work together collaboratively. But, you know, we had this idea of a GRC platform, and the thought was this platform could do everything. Well, there's not one piece of software on the planet for governance, risk, and compliance that can do everything. So we moved into GRC architecture, GRC 3.0. There still could be a core platform for managing governance, risk, and compliance, and dashboarding, reporting, coordinating, but there's a lot of specialized and best-of-breed systems out there that make sense that need to integrate into the GRC architecture. But then, about 6-7 years ago, I was getting a lot of complaints. The legacy players in this space were very expensive to implement. I remember a LinkedIn post that described one implementation to the lyrics of the song Hotel California by the Eagles, that they're stuck and cannot get out. After spending $500,000 on software license, $2 million on implementation fees, 2 years later, they're getting just some very basic functionality working. You know, that wasn't good. You know, a lot of these, there's a lot of bespoke implementations. People were stuck on upgrades. They couldn't get to the new version because they customized so much. So we entered the era of agile GRC. And all the next generations of cognitive and business integrated GRC are built on agile GRC. So it doesn't go away, but it's this cloud approach to GRC. It's this no-code, low-code approach to GRC, where things don't break on upgrades and is easier to implement, has a lower cost of management and maintenance and implementation. It's agile. And built on agile GRC is GRC 5.0, cognitive GRC. How do we leverage artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, machine learning, generative AI, robotic process automation, deep learning, and make GRC more efficient, effective, resilient, and agile through the leveraging and appropriate use, and I underline appropriate, use of artificial intelligence for governance, risk, and compliance. And that's the era we're in right now. And we're moving to this future of what I call GRC 6.0, and I'll be writing a lot about that in 2024. But business integrated GRC. How do we build GRC more into business processes instead of being additional layers of complexity and bureaucracy? And how do we bake GRC more into the business and how we do business? But a good GRC information architecture is going to bring together what are the objectives of the organization, whether they're high-level objectives or process-level objectives. What are the risks to achieving those objectives? What are the controls that are in place to mitigate those risks and to reliably achieve objectives so we have consistent operations and processes and transactions? What are the issues that can hinder those objectives, the issues that point to control failures and weaknesses, the issues that point to where risks have materialized that can impact our risk models? The roles such as subject matter experts or risk owners, the policies that govern objectives, but also the policies that address risks and compliance and controls, the obligations and regulations, the organizational structure. We need a solid information architecture that can map all these different types of information contextually so that we can have good insight and intelligence on GRC. When these are managed in hundreds or thousands of documents, spreadsheets, and emails, like control and risk assessments, and cases and incidents are managed in like homegrown databases, and policies are just thrown out there on file shares or SharePoint sites, it takes a lot of time and effort to get intelligence. You know, why are we having so many issues on that particular policy and cases? Is it because we're hiring bad, wicked, evil people? Maybe, but maybe it's a management issue, or there's a training issue, or some other control issue in the environment. We need better visibility into the relationship of all this GRC information to be able to achieve this. And so here's how I break out the GRC software space. And so we can take a centralized approach to GRC, or a GRC architecture approach, or a siloed approach. And I firmly believe in the GRC architecture, where there's still a core platform for GRC reporting, but there's also best-of-breed systems where they make sense. But there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that go into GRC, from the strategy, performance, and objective management, risk and resilience, compliance and ethics management, policy and training, internal control management, issue reporting and case management, ESG, third-party governance, risk and compliance with the extended enterprise, audit management and analytics, IT GRC, environmental and health and safety, and so much more here that come together into a GRC architecture to serve your organization. But when you select technology for this space, it needs to be agile, highly usable, not just for back office functions, but for the front office that need to engage on governance, risk, and compliance day in and day out. You should have a lower cost of ownership, where it's not too costly to implement and maintain in the organization. It's configurable and adaptable to the organization in a low-code or no-code situation without breaking things. It's scalable, adaptable, can integrate with other systems, has robust analytics, is leveraging cognitive GRC with artificial intelligence, and doesn't break on upgrades. It has strong management reporting, where we can get those reports at a push of a button, and we have dashboards, and it doesn't take 200 hours to go through, thousands of documents, spreadsheets, and emails to build reports. Has a strong audit trail of who did what, when, how, and why that's defensible with regulators and the legal system as well. Has workflow and tasks to make sure things don't slip through the cracks. But at the end of the day, good GRC technology enables how we do GRC, because GRC is something we do, it's not something we buy. Technology enables that, and as we move towards this era of business integrated GRC, it helps us become more aware of our risks and the interconnectedness of risks in the environment. It enables us to align and work together across different departments and functions. It helps us to identify issues and respond to them before they become incidents. It helps us see what's coming at the horizon and developing out there so we can prepare the organization for different risk scenarios and navigate the organization towards greater profitability, or at least, less loss exposure. Helps us be more resilient, so when we have a risk issue, we can recover from that efficiently. And it leverages technology in a way that makes it efficient in our use of human capital and financial capital resources. So there's a lot of research on my website at grc2020.com, but we also have the grcreport.com as well. So if you want to stay up abreast on all the news around the world on GRC, the grcreport.com is the latest and greatest in news information happening worldwide on governance, risk, and compliance.
Thank you. Please give a big applause to Michael presentations. Could you please give me the tablet so I can read the... No? There's no Q&A? Oh, okay. Okay, Michael, so just told by the committee there is no question and answers. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to close the session by emphasizing one, I think is a very important thing, yeah, that from Michael presentations. About the GRC is we need to manage the risk compliance and controls, not manage the documents of the risk compliance and controls, right? So that's where the needs of GRC technology comes, yeah. From the Michael's presentations, we know that there is a GRC 6.0, the business integrated GRC. So without further notice, then again, please again give Michael a big applause. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming and being around with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen and Mr. Charles. Please remain at the stage. We would like to invite Professor D.S. Priyarsono to join us on stage to present tokens of appreciation to both of our esteemed speaker, Mr. Rasmussen, and our gracious host, Mr. Charles. Thank you for Mr. Rasmussen for facilitating the amazing discussion, and special thanks to Mr. Charles R. Forth for skillfully leading the insightful and enlightening conversation. To Professor D.S. Priyarsono, kindly give the token of appreciation to both Mr. Rasmussen and Mr. Charles. And let's take a picture together. Yes, please. On our count from 3, 2, 1. Give a big smile. Thank you once again. For Mr. Rasmussen, Mr. Charles, and Professor D.S. Priyarsono, you may take a seat. Thank you very much, sir. Hopefully this session will be beneficial for all of us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to indulge in a sip of favorite brew or grab some snack right outside of this ballroom. And for your convenience, you are welcome to enjoy your coffee or snacks inside this ballroom. And also for our online participants, we will have break for 10 minutes. Let's take this opportunity to relax, network, and perhaps spark some intriguing conversation over coffee. We will reconvene shortly for the next engaging session, so enjoy. Take a coffee break. We'll see you soon.